very much. Only haven't had the chance to actually meet Rabbi Silver this week in person. Rabbi Silver is author of tremendous svarim, very lucid, clear svarim in the areas of shalom. Shalom ben am l'chaveiro, shalom ben ish li'ishto, shalom bayis. Rabbi Silver Kainahara has built for himself a shem, Tiferes, Bahani and Yanim in these areas. And I enjoyed very much our conversation this week. Over an hour, we had a chance to shmooze and get to know each other and really see the shlita that Rabbi Silver has on these inyanim and the chachma, real wisdom, takes wisdom to help people navigate in these ever so halacha l'maisa as it gets. So certainly, b'shalom binyan b'shalom bayis. On top of that, Rabbi Silver is a dayan, and therefore it's a tremendous chus that we have Rabbi Silver here to share a few words as a lead from Tisha.
It's a big honor to be here. The interesting thing is that as we get further and further away from the Beis Hamikdash, daven as we may with all of our kavanah, we're sometimes plagued with a thought. If the previous generations that were so much greater than us didn't manage to bring the Mashiach and build the Beis Hamikdash, how are we going to manage? And this creeps into our minds so much so that Dimos Alechio in Eicha, the Moasu Be'eretz Chemda, we still suffer from it because we don't really know what we lost. And even if we'll be rebuked by the Yaakov Emden, who says to us that the main chorbonos down all the generations, all the suffering is because we don't have enough avedus on the chorban. It's very hard. It's very hard for us because we don't know what we're missing. It's obvious, if parents die, Rahman al-Islam, and they leave a child an orphan. So he sees his parents are gone and everything's tough and everything's in disarray. What about if the parents die when he was a baby? So he doesn't really know his parents doesn't know what he's missing. What about if his parents died before he was even born? His father died in pregnancy and his mother died in childbirth, so he doesn't know anything. He just lives with the situation. When you trap an animal in the wilds and you bring them into a zoo, the animal's banging on a cage trying to get out there, but the next generation of animals, they're fine. They're not banging on any cage because they don't know any different. We're kind of born in prison, and we don't know that there's a whole spiritual world out there that the Beis Hamikdash used to bring us. And as we get further and further, generation by generation, I still remember my grandfather, when he was very weak at the end, saying, "What? I didn't live to see Mashiach?" And then I saw my father thinking the same thing. And I tell you myself also, in the last few years, every year, we get to some of Sekes, Meisei Mutar B'Fonov, we go through the Eicha at night, we go through the Kinnis in the day, and where's Mashiach? Another year went by without Mashiach. And the truth is, they just said Nachem, and the Eis Erev, towards the evening, they set light to the Beis Hamikdash, and HaKadosh Baruch Hu, however we understand this, poured out his anger on stone and wood, and speak chasodim. So we've got out, we're sitting high now. And it's true that the earlier generations didn't manage to build Beis Hamikdash. You look at the Koisel Maravi, you see huge stones on the bottom, and then you see as you go up, the stones get smaller and smaller. Then you get to Montefiore stones, and then you get to the most recent line of stones on the top, just for safety reasons. So yes, even though we're not like them, but we do have what to give to build the Beis Hamikdash. To bring out this point, on the pasuk, Bila Hashem v'lo chomal, the Gemara in Gittin says a terrible story on this pasuk. Rabbi had 24 drashas on this pasuk, and Rabbi Yochanan had 60 drashas on this pasuk. But one second, Rabbi Yochanan was one of the junior Talmidim, one of the last Talmidim of Rabbi. Was he so much greater than his Rebbe? And the answer, so one of the Mepharshim was that Rabbi had still Talmidim who remembered the Beis HaMikdash. They were close, if not them, their fathers, their grandfathers. Every time he said the drasha, everybody burst out in uncontrollably crying. And he couldn't get further, so he only managed to get through 24. By the time he had got to Rabbi Yochanan's generation, one of his younger Talmidim, he could say 60 droshas and people weren't crying so much. The Gemara says that when they came back from the exile in Bovel, and they built the new Beis HaMikdash, and they took out huge orchestras of very loud musical instruments, but the wailing and the crying of some very old people, they have to be well over 70 to remember the first Beis HaMikdash, they're crying and wailing that the second Beis HaMikdash is not as great as the first Beis HaMikdash, overcame the whole orchestra and you couldn't hear the music. We don't know what we're missing, the first Mikdash, the second Mikdash, and as the years go by, the Gemara says a story, somebody was walking with a Yid, and the Yid was running along and he couldn't keep up. So he thought, I'll slow him down, I'll tell him something to make him miserable, now slow him down. So he reminded him about the Chorban Beis HaMikdash, and he still couldn't keep up with him. So he said to him, I don't understand you, you cry every year on what, so how come? So he says, a mother who loses a child is very sad. And a mother loses another child and another child and another child. So many years have gone by, so it's hard. She doesn't cry so quickly. When Yidden cry on Tisha B'Av, this is not a cry of despair, of yiush, of giving up hope, of depression, of misery and sadness. On the contrary, it's a cry of hope. And that's what we're supposed to be doing, because by crying our cry of hope, Kol Sheloi Nivna Mikdash Miyomov Kilu Nechra Miyom, the Yerushalmi says, if the Beis HaMikdash was not built in your generation, it's as if it was destroyed in your generation. The Gemara says, Kolim is Abel al Yerushalayim Zoiche V'roya B'simchasa. It doesn't say Yizkeh, the Yireh, it says the present tense. Somebody who knows what we lost. He's learned his Vochim Menachos, he told me the Midas, and he's learned the Psukim, and he realizes what Nevuah was and what the Peiros Eretz Yisrael were, Beruchnias or Begashmias. So he is, when he cries on Tisha B'Av, it's almost as if he is already seeing the future Binyan Beis HaMikdash. And if he didn't get there, it's as if it's Nechrav B'Yomov. We live in hope. We live in hope. And the connection between the history and the future is our feelings, our emotions. We're not just gorillas on the stock exchange looking for where the tastiest food is and where to go on our next holiday. We live in hope that we'll get the Beis HaMikdash. We say Korbanos every day, and we lay them in Kriyas HaTorah on every occasion. And Shalma Purims Poseinu. We say in Birchas Avodah and Ritzei and Shmona Esrei, 3 Pirushim, and how the words fit together. It's as if the Korbanos that were once upon a time are still there in front of HaKadosh Baruch Hu now, and they're protecting us. And we mention them and we remember them, and we live as if in the present, as if we have a Beis HaMikdash to a certain extent. So we cried a Bechia Shel Chinom, the first Tisha B'Av, and 5 terrible things happened. What is Nechrasha? The Heichel was Nechrashed. 1 second. Even Titus, who destroyed the temple, but the Chazal say that the Gemara says he just ground flour that was already ground. Our Averis already made the Chorban. What did he add? And what did Tornas Rappas, one of the 5 terrible things, what did Tornas Rappas add by plowing the Heichel, plowing the Mokem HaMikdash? And the answer is because when it was still there, we're still remembering, and he thought if he plows it and he makes pretty gardens over there, we're going to forget about it. But we didn't forget about it, and we're still crying. And when you get to, after 120 to Shamayim, one of the first questions you get asked was, Tzipisa Yeshua? Did you look forward to Mashiach coming and being Yeshua in Klal Yisrael and being Beis HaMikdash? This poor orphan who never knew his parents, He didn't know his parents, but he knows what's missing. The whole house is in disarray, nothing's functioning. If only we knew all the things, Mishachar Beis HaMikdash, so many things became bottled. The world lost so much of its material value after the Churban Beis HaMikdash. Bechi is a lashon of a mavucha, a maze, confusion, perplexed. We're just confused by what we lost. Achashverosh thought he could take out the kelim to make us forget, but we are yearning. Our crying on Tisha B'Av is yearning for the future Mikdash. It's not despair, Yush and Atzvus. There is a hestaponim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu's kaviochel hiding from us. However, there is always hashkocha protis. There's a mitzitz min acharakim. Imagine HaKadosh Baruch Hu is in the attic and he's looking through the cracks in the floorboards. And he's watching each and every one of us. How are we doing? What are we doing? So much so that if somebody gets hung because he did one of the worst averos, that's chayav skila, the most serious of the 4 misos based in, and they hang up his body right before Shkia and immediately take it down. And those moments that the body is hanging, the Mishnah says, HaKadosh Baruch Hu is saying, Kalani miroishi, kalani mizroi, this is so heavy for me. So much does HaKadosh Baruch Hu love us. So much. And he's down, sometimes you get stranded somewhere and you turn up in this hotel and you've got like 8 Yidden who are maybe Shema Shabbos, maybe not, and you're davening for the 10th to arrive. If you realize the Shekhinah is there with every Yid, whether the 10th arrives or not, you feel very miserable. How did I land here? I should have taken a different flight. HaKadosh Baruch Hu was right there with you. Right there with you. And if a guy slaps a Yid, the Gemara says he's chayav misa because it's as if he slaps the Shekhinah. And if a Yid slaps a Yid, he's not chayav misa. And if a Yid slaps a Talmud Chacham, and if all the media is talking against Talmidei Chachamim, the Gemara in Chagiga says HaKadosh Baruch Hu is crying. He's crying about the hashpala of Kavod Shemayim and the hashpala of Klal Yisrael. We are in a terrible situation. Down the generations, 2,000 years of Christianity, and 1,300 or 400, hard to know because they have one less month in every 7 years, 19. However long it's been, how many shmodos, how many people were forced to convert, how many people converted with called Kli Yutzalach, Lo Yitzchok, Loshen Tarshi, either with smooth talk or with threatened or with thinking they'll have a parnasa. How many did we lose? How many children were stolen in the Holocaust by the monasteries and the nunneries? How many of them were deposited there and were not allowed to come back to Yiddishkeit? Oy lo ilo oviv, shebonov golum me'al shulchanoi. How many children is HaKadosh Baruch Hu crying over? And when we have 13, 16, however many million Yidden who know that they are Jews and they don't know Ben Yaminon, the Smoilom. I know somebody who didn't know what Shabbos was, but when he was 16, he was in public school and he put a yarmulke on because he thought that's Yiddishkeit. He came back. He came back. Their fathers are crying by the Kisei HaKavod. They'll all come back. But right now, how much have we lost to intermarriage? How many people have in their house children going off the derech and problems of finding shidduchim and people who are sick emotionally, physically, problems with parnasa. HaKadosh Baruch Hu is with every single one of them. When we'll get a Beis HaMikdash, we'll have nevuah. You won't have any shayla what shidduch to do or which masechta is best for you to learn or anything. Even if your donkeys get lost, Shaul HaMelech goes to the Navi. We say in Birchas Hamazon, we say in Birchas Rachim, Al Yisrael Amecha, Al Yerushalayim Yirecha, Al Tzion Mishkan Kavodecha. This is probably a deraisa. The Gemara learns the pasuk. V'al Malchus Beis David Mishichecha, V'al Rabbi Sakol V'al Shnei Shimcha. And then we say, Elokeinu, Avinu, Reinu, Zuneinu, Farneseinu, V'chalkileinu, V'richinu, V'achlonu, Miheiro, Mikol Tzoriseinu. Even in Ritzei, we say, Sheloite Tzora V'yogim V'anocha V'yoim Menuchaseinu. When we'll have a mikdash, we'll have everything. Parnosa, we won't have any tzara, v'yogim v'anocha. And in Aramichya we even add, Ba'al Mizbechecha. And the Bach says if you eat Peris Eretz Yisrael, you get Yiras Shamayim from it. You have to make sure they've taken Trumas Amaisus and it's not Orla or Klayim or anything. But yes, HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave us wonderful, wonderful gifts. And we don't know what we're missing. They had 500 Sidrei Mishnah. We've only got Shisha Sidrei Mishnah. Avraham Avinu had 400 prokim in his Avodah Zarah. We only have 5. There is Hashem when Mashiach comes. We'll have the Avodah. There was never a person who sinned in Yerushalayim, because if he sinned by night, he got the Korban Tomid in the morning, sinned in the afternoon, got the Tomid of the afternoon. The Korbanos, they bring down a shefa of Kol Tusera, and Ruchnias and Gashmias. The Hadoim Raglov, Kiro HaKadosh Baruch Hu's pedestal for his feet, for the world, was the Beis HaMikdash. That's why Achashverosh, Haman couldn't stand Ad Chatzi HaMalchus, but not the Mikdash. The Gemara brings a story that there were 600,000 cities with 600,000 people in each of them, except 3 of them that had 1.2 million. And they were all chorov. And the Gemara says, why? Because they weren't mis'abel on Yerushalayim. Simchu es Yerushalayim, v'gilu bo kol oihaveha, l'osid lova, whoever was oihav Yerushalayim will be simchu v'sisu. Sisu ito mosois kol ha-mis'ablim aleha. And they weren't mis'abel. Terrible, terrible stories in the Gemara. And that's one of them, because they weren't mis'abel. They didn't really feel the loss, the bridge between the history and the future. We cry with emunah in the Geula. You went to the gas chamber singing Animamin. HaKadosh Baruch Hu Kivyochel is pained by our pain. The Apolton, or whatever his name is, the philosopher, asked Yirmiyahu, why are you crying? It's just a stone building. And he said to him, ask me all of your hardest questions you have. And he answered all of them. He said, all that chokhmah I got from these stones. Napoleon walked into a shul and he saw them sitting on the floor Tisha B'Av by night saying kinnis and candlelight, and he said to them, what are you doing? And they explained to him, we had a temple 1700 years ago, and he said, they're going to get their temple back. If they're still connected, when a Yid forgets to make Kiddush, it reminds him of Havdalah. We're Am Novoin B'Chochim. Am Novoin B'Chochim. We're going to get the Beis HaMikdash back. But who's going to gain from it? If you stab a dead man, it doesn't hurt him. We are alive, and every Tisha B'Av we remember, and we get stabbed. But also in Mikdash v'shachanti v'soicham, shu'olim hilchu bo, the other Tanoim cried. Rabbi Akiva chuckled, he laughed. If that nevuah the Charia came about, then also all the other nevuahs will come about. We've said Nachem. If you go through the Seder of any Shemona Esra, Re'enov Onyenu, Rashi and Megillah explains it's going also on Geula from every small tzara down the generations. Borech Aleinu, the Gemara brings a posuk that Eretz Yisrael will start giving fruit before the Kibbutz Golios, so there'll be what to eat. I was thinking to myself, who knows if now that they know how to clean the water and make it drinkable from the Mediterranean Sea. That's in time for Mashiach coming, because there are going to be so many millions of people there. They're going to need food and drink. And they have so much fruit from a barren land that laid waste for 2,000 years that they export to all over the place. And why do you need the fruit for the kibbutz golios to kabashay for God oil? And when you get the kibbutz golios, you're going to have Hashiva Shefteinu Kavari Shoino, Bohoser Mimenu Yogem Vanocha, which takes you to the next bracha that we're going to it will be obliterated. All the Rishoim, all the Minim and Apikorasim, all the people who are right of Yidden and right of the Torah, and all the Goyim. This bracha was really the Lamim, the early Christians who were Jews, and we're going to get rid of them. And then the Tzaddikim and the Hasidim and the Ziknei Chabes Yisrael, Zekon HaChochma, the Yirei Shamayim and the Talmidei Chachamim are going to get up and be rewarded, and then we're going to get Yerushalayim, and if you have Yerushalayim, you'll get Malchus Beis David, Shmoyne Esrei. We all say it every day. We are all Zionists, very strong Zionists, and only when you have Yerushalayim and Malchus Beis David can you have proper tefillah. Of course we daven, but it's nothing compared to what we'll have. And then you'll have the avodah, the korbanos, and after that you'll bring a toidah, moedim anachnu loch, and after that you'll have birchas koyanim, and we'll have shalom in Israel. And you know, on Rosh Hashanah, when nigzar a person how much he's going to have in anything material, but the main tefillah of Rosh Hashanah is v'chein tein pachtacha Hashem elikecha kol masecha ve'imoscha kol mashe b'rosa. Everybody should have yiras shamayim. V'yasu chulam aguda achas rasus etzrincha v'leiv sholem. Everybody's going to want to serve Hashem. Tein kovid la'amecha tehilel rei'echa. וכן צדיקים יראו וישמחו ואילוסו תקפוץ פיו וכל הרישו כאושם תכלה כיסא בממשלת זודי מן האורץ. And then we're going to have a simlech ata levadecha kol maasecha v'hatzio in mishkan kvodecha v'Yerushalayim erkochecha. So much tefillah. All the musafim are in place of korbanos. All the tefillahs in Yom HaNoroim are begging Hashem, please reveal your kingdom to the world. Give us a Beis HaMikdash. Give us back the Nevuah with all the positive things, the Torah that comes from it, and all the fruits that come from it, and everything else. It's time to finish. Yehi ratzon she'iboneh Beis HaMikdash b'meher b'yameinu v'seimcha keinu v'seresecha v'shom na'avodcha v'yira kimei olam u'cheshonim kalmaniyos. They brought some sforim if anyone wants to buy them. Shkaya.
Oh yeah.
Shkaya.